Hi everybody, this is Sean Fallon from Dickinson High School, and today's crash course is going to focus on an overview of and strategies for effective questioning in your classroom. Our objective is to leave this workshop with tangible strategies that are going to help your kids become more inquisitive through questioning. This is going to involve questions that you pose to the class for answer and discussion, and questions your students create during lessons. Here we have just a few points I wanted to make before we start. The first is that I'm never going to waste your time. The things that we present are going to be relevant, useful, and on your time using the interactive video format. The 4 presentation videos that I've made so far have been viewed about 500 times on YouTube, and the feedback that I'm getting from our colleagues is that they've been very useful. They're short, they're to the point, and they can be viewed on your time, so you're not locked into a classroom PD session. As we start to introduce the blended learning model to our kids, we're using virtual lessons. We're having kids submit assignments online and listen to classes and do activities online. I don't think there's any reason why teachers shouldn't be afforded the same opportunity. Okay. The next points are that I'm never going to tell you what to do in your classroom. What I do, or what I'm going to do, is show you what I like to do and what works for me, and give you the opportunity to use it if you want to. And finally, I'm always going to do everything I can to welcome your input on presentation topics and give your concerns the attention and respect they deserve. So if anyone has anything to offer at the end of the workshop or has a concern specific to their classroom that they want my input on, please email me. You see that my contact info is listed below. So here's our question. It's only fitting that we start a workshop on effective questioning with a good question. And that is, what is effective questioning, and how do we use it to get our kids to become more inquisitive and more engaged in what we want them to learn? As a teacher with a fair amount of experience, I'm convinced that questions and their solutions are the basis of learning. A good question generates energy in our classrooms and invites kids to explore. We know that a good question will get a response from the kids, and that good questions can never really be captured by a single answer. So, why don't we just use asking questions as a teaching technique for 45 straight minutes? Okay, that's the question that I have, if it's so effective. I think the problem with that is that sometimes we're hesitant to turn a really good question loose in our room because of the exploration that it causes. Kids start to expand on their ideas and thoughts, and then the first question leads to a secondary question and discussions, and this takes time. It takes a lot of time that we don't have because of the testing mania that we deal with. We have strict pacing guides, and we've been convinced that we have to cover every single piece of material in the curriculum by a certain date and time, or else we're not going to do well when we take the park in the spring. This is our dilemma. We know that good questions are good for engaging our kids. We just don't have the time to sit back and enjoy a lesson that sparks questions, discussions, and sometimes tails off to some place that we can't really predict or control as a teacher. This actually happened to me about 3 weeks ago. I was being evaluated by Dr. Williams with Mr. DiLorenzo in the room, and we were doing a lesson about World War II Nazi propaganda. And one of the kids, this was the day after the election, by the way, one of the kids asked if the Nazi propaganda we were looking at was similar to some of the things that Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton were saying about each other. And this was, Mr. DiLorenzo turned green because we were supposed to be sticking to the timeline and, working through the lesson as we had it planned with the principal sitting there watching us. And the discussion kind of went off into space as we started to talk about the similarities with the Nazi propaganda we were looking at and some of the things that, Clinton and Trump were saying about each other. So, in my opinion, I think it was a good thing because, yeah, we got off topic a little bit for a few minutes, but the truth is that the kids were really interested in and engaged in what we were doing because we took something that happened a long time ago and we made it relevant to something that had happened the day before. So to me, I think it was a fantastic lesson. I'm going to find out how good it really was when I get my scores back soon. But this is the risk that you run when you ask really good questions to your kids. You don't know where the discussion is going to lead from that point on. And as a teacher, we want control. We don't want to just sit back and let the discussion tail off because we can't predict where it's going and we can't control it. Okay, that's kind of the dilemma that I think that we have. Some things to remember: a teacher who understands how and when to ask the right questions can create a learning situation that builds confidence for their kids and makes lessons more memorable. What we hope to do in this workshop is to give you a template on how to use questioning to engage your kids and still be able to focus and control the discussion and learning. Okay, here are a few things to consider. The first is that we should always provide our kids with sufficient wait time. When you ask your kids a question, you need to give them enough time to answer it. I mean, it sounds pretty simple, but it's not something that we always do. Most teachers, sometimes myself included, we only wait a second or two for an answer. I've been trying to work on this. I've been trying to wait at least 5 seconds, and even longer if I've asked the kids a higher order thinking question. Just giving them that extra, 8 to 10 seconds to answer. If you have to, count down in your head from 5 or from 10 or whatever it is you want to get yourself in the habit of giving kids time to think. The next point is that we should model how we want our kids to answer questions. When you start to build the relationship with your kids at the beginning of the school year, I always try to include in that, not just my classroom procedures, but how I want them to answer questions. I don't take for granted that they understand what I expect of them and giving me a detailed and thoughtful answer that I want. So, as an example, um, if I asked a student in an English class, is Hamlet's reaction to his mother's remarriage reasonable? And the kid just says yes. I guess you're right technically, but what I really want is for the student to take a position on this question and back up their claim with evidence. But how do the kids know that? They need to know that by me modeling an answer. Okay, an example of an answer that you could model is that Hamlet's reaction is reasonable, because not much time has passed since his father's death. With this, you're setting the expectation that answers need to come with support and reasons why. This is one that's pretty self-explanatory. Okay, I always try to post or distribute higher order thinking question stems. I have them available in the room so they can be easily accessed during lessons and discussions. Um, Up at the front of this workshop, I have packets that are labeled by content area where you can take a copy of a sample question stem for the subject that you teach. They give you good examples of questions that you can ask during a lesson to help your kids find, a greater depth of knowledge in what you're teaching. If they're posted in your room, anyone can use them anytime they want. This is a pretty easy one. Don't accept easy answers. This is sometimes much easier said than done. During the course of a lesson, we're always asking questions to see if the kids are following us, to see if they're engaged. I always try to challenge students to go deeper by posing another question to their response. If you have to, even in a really crude way, you can just keep saying why all over again. If they give you an answer, say why. If they give you another answer, say why again. Like I said, it's kind of crude, but it's okay as long as you can get them to keep talking. Asking why forces kids to get to the source of why they really believe something. Never accept I don't know. Never accepting I don't know as an answer goes without saying, I think. Many kids have learned to use I don't know as a way of kind of disengaging with us and getting off the hot seat. You have to understand that you're getting played. Okay, when a kid says they don't know, I think that they're trying to play me. Okay, they know that the words I don't know makes my instinct to teach them and to protect them kick in. And, at that point, I'm going to start to look for ways to help them get off the hook instead of really pushing them to think at a higher level to answer the question. What I do in this situation is try to tell the student who says they don't know that I want him or her to listen to the next student's answer and then I'm going to come back to you to see if you agree or disagree. Okay, so a student says I don't know when I ask him or her a question. I say, okay, that's fine. Listen to the next answer that I get, and I'm going to come back to you in about 30 seconds, and you're going to tell me whether you disagree or agree with that answer, and then you're going to tell me why. If they still claim not to know after we've gone through that, I can just make them repeat what the previous student says. Just do something to get them talking out loud in front of the other kids and to kind of get them engaged again in the lesson. Don't be afraid to tell a student that they're wrong. This is one that I wish I was a little bit better at. Even when a kid gives me a wrong answer, I always want to try to find something positive in it. I try to commend them for having the courage to participate. So what I do is I try to find ways to make wrong answers okay. This isn't a good practice. It's something that I'm working on. What I'm trying to do is to say no, that's not what I'm looking for, in a nice way, and following that up by putting them on the right track to the right answer. The next one, make sure all your students expect to participate in discussions. Okay, having everyone participate in discussions is very difficult. I know this. We're teaching, we're not teaching, young kids, fifth graders, fourth graders, where we can put everybody's name on a popsicle stick, and pull them out of the cup one at a time as the kids answer questions and put the popsicle sticks in the good boy pile. This is not something that we're doing in high school classrooms. What I try to do to get 100% participation is to just cold call kids. Just calling out on kids at random, whether they raise their hand or not. To me, I think it's kind of effective because it keeps everybody on their toes, and my kids know that the more you shy away from questions, the more likely it is that I'm going to call on you. Not raising your hand in my class puts a bullseye on your back, and I really believe that this raises the level of engagement for my kids. The last one, teach kids to answer their own questions. Okay, this is going to be the hands-on part of this workshop when this video is over in a couple minutes. Okay, what we're going to do is take a look at the QFT model. It's called the question formation technique, and we're going to look at it in practice. I think that for your attention, as we discussed, questioning techniques and some strategies that work for me. So right now it's time to get started on the hands-on modeling portion of the workshop. I thank you for your attention, and I look forward to working with you for the next half hour or so. Thank you.